So today we will be starting with Flexbox. Flexbox is a really important topic of CSS. Like it helps us to create layouts. As of now, we have only studied uh, float and clear, block and inline, and uh, we only use that much. We can create layout with that, but it's really a tedious task. So using Flexbox makes it much more easier. So let's start with Flexbox. Yeah. So to start with it, let's first create a parent div, like parent, and inside of that we will have, let's say, six div. Um, and yeah, so it's something like this. Okay, let's define the basic CSS. Then okay, let parent will be um, display flex. Okay, let's first add a background color of gray, and then flex parent div will be height of 100 pixels with 200 pixels. Let content and its background color and yeah. Okay, so this is what we have. So if I don't define the width, so it's 100%. So this is our div which we have made. Let's do text in the next one. Yeah, so this is our div, and inside of which this is the parent div, inside of which we have six divs. So if we define the width, so this gray one is the parent div, and this blue ones are the child divs. So if we want to make all of them in a same line, arrange them in a same line, then what we can do is one way is that we can have float as left, right? But then, but like after recently, there has CSS Flexbox was released, and it's much more easier to do it with Flexbox, and there are many more features of Flexbox which we will be seeing. So if I define it as Flexbox, so you can see right now all of them are on different line, but as soon as I do it as display flex. So there are few properties related to Flexbox, which are by default, like there is flex direction, which is by default row, because of which it is coming in the same line. So let's see those properties. We have flex direction. So like a Flexbox basically makes the children flexible. So uh, yeah, so if I do flex direction means in which direction do I want the child elements to be. So by default it's row, so all of them will be in a row, right? I can do it as column. Now in column it will be like this, like by default As you can see, if we don't define display flex, then it will be like this. But let's say I define the height as 100 VH. Now there are few additional properties like um, justify content space between. So you can see that there is, we will be talking about what justify content is, but I just want to make the point that like to do this, we use Flexbox because there are many more uh, properties related to Flexbox which can help us define the layout. Okay, so for now there is column, there is row, then we have column reverse, and the names are self-explanatory. So now you can see that it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the reverse order, and we have row reverse 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the reverse order. Okay, so this is the flex direction property. Next we have flex wrap. So before defining this, I want to show you one thing. Let's comment this out. Yeah. So as you can see, the divs are not. Let's add a bit of margin. 550. Okay, so when I am reducing the width of when I'm shrinking the page width, you can see that the width of the parent element is also reducing, and thus the child elements are by default shrinking, and because of which the elements are not overflowing, right? But suppose I don't want them to shrink, but I want them to come down to a next line. So here we can use flex wrap, and flex wrap by default it's no wrap. So if I write it as no wrap, so you will see no change. But if I let's say do it as wrap, so what this will do is that uh yeah, so the width of each div is 200 pixels, right? So but when the page size goes below 1200 pixel plus the margin, whatever it is, then the sixth div is not finding enough space. So it should shrink, but since we defined the flex wrap as wrap, so it's actually wrapping down, and the elements are going to the next line. So yeah, that's basically flex wrap, and then we have flex wrap reverse, and it's basically like it's reverse. It is reversing in the opposite direction. Just a second. Yeah. So wrap reverse is basically like you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it's wrapping them in the reverse direction, right? So that's flex wrap. Then we have flex flow. Flex flow is just a shorthand. It's not a property as such, but yeah, it's basically just a shorthand for flex direction. So here we have flex direction, and then we have flex wrap. So instead of writing flex direction as row reverse and flex wrap as wrap reverse, I can just write flex flow as row reverse and wrap reverse. And if I comment this out, it's working the same way. So flex flow is just a shorthand property. So after this, we have justify content. So justify content is helps us to align the elements, the child elements, uh, horizontally, right? So right now, if I do justify content as let's say flex start. So flex start is the by default value of justify content, but if I do it as flex end, let me reduce the number of elements. Yeah, let's say I have only 3 of them. Yeah, so you can see that where is it loading? Okay, so you can see that they are pushed to the right hand side, which means the end of the parent element. So that's flex end. Then we have center. Center basically means that it will add, you can say, empty space to the left of the leftmost element and empty space to the right of the rightmost element, and just align them centrally. Then we have space between, space around, and space evenly. So it might sound confusing, but it's basically self-explanatory. Space around means that let's say this distance, like uh, the empty space, which is between the left of the body and the left border of the first element, which means this space, if you consider this as x, then it will have the same width, same empty space on the right hand side. Like this will also be x. So x, x, and then this second element will also have its empty space here. So the ratio is 1 is to 2 is to 2 is to 1. So this is flex around. Similarly, we have flex evenly, but the difference is that there the ratio was 1 is to 2 is to 2 is to 1, but here it is 1 is to 1 is to 1, which means that uh, all the spaces, like every empty space between each element is equal, right? So that space evenly, and then we have space between. Space between just add space between two elements and not between the end of the parent element and the last element of or the first element. So any doubts so far? So we did, just to recap, we did display flex. Okay, so Flexbox is actually a really large topic, and I guess we will be covering up main topics in this main properties related to Flexbox in this lecture. But apart from that, there are many which are not that common, that much commonly used. But if you want, you can definitely learn it from W3 school. Okay, so we did justify. No, we didn't do justify content. We did flex direction, flex wrap, then flex flow, and justify content. Any doubts so far? Okay, so I'm considering that as a no. Then we have align item. Okay, so uh, till now, whatever we have learned, we can align an item vertically using the the absolute value and then defining the top and bottom, right? That's the only way. But that was actually not there are many problems which you face if we define position as absolute, some weird behaviors. So Flexbox made it easier to align items vertically. So here we can do, by default it's flex start, which means that it will be on the top of the parent element. Then we have flex end, which is at the bottom of the flex parent flex element. And then we have center. Yeah, so that's center. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We only have There is baseline as well, yeah. So what baseline means is that, let's say I have flex parent div init child as 1, and I define it font size as 2 rem, and for the third element it will be, let's say, 0.9 rem. So you can see that this, yeah, if I zoom in, you can see the difference in the font size, and you can see they are not perfectly aligned. So if I want them to be aligned in such a way that if I draw a bottom border from the first, like I want the bottom of every text to be at the same line. Let's say I want to draw a line like this, like like in our school notebooks we do have the bottom line which we consider as the baseline, right? So if I want that, right now you can see that this is at the top, then this is quite low. But if I, oh, sorry, that's why I was thinking why. Yeah, now you can see it was actually on the same line. Now you can see that this is above the first element because of the difference in the font size, and the third element is actually above the first element. But if I want all of them in the same line, then I can apply, I can define align items as baseline. So now you can see all of them are like the bottom of all of the text is in the same line. So that's align item. So let me comment this out. Yeah, let me check the chart. Okay, present. Okay. Acha, also, if anyone will be leaving before the end of the class, just let me know because I will be taking, like, I will be cross-checking the attendance at the end of the meeting. So if you have any important, like, if you have a tuition or something and you need to leave before, just let me know. Then we have, yeah, then we have order. Yeah. So let me comment this out. Okay. And let me add these. Yeah. So now we have 6 elements, and okay, let's comment two of them out. Yeah. Now we have, you know, let me uncover this also. So let's say I want to, like, there is order property. By default, order is 0. So if I do order 0 and order 0, so by default, all of them are order 0, and they will appear in the way they are defined in the HTML. So the divs are like 1, 2, 3, 4. Thus they are in the order 1, 2, 3, 4. But suppose I want to, like, I want the second element to be at the last. So what I can do, I can define order as 1. So it's similar to z index. Like in the z index, if any z index was more than, let's say, by default it was 0, and if we define it more than, let's say, the element which is below it, then it will go above. Like, oh, sorry, let's say two elements are overlapping, and if we define one of them as 10 and the other one is 0, then the one with more z index will overlap the other one and will be on the top. So similarly, in order, if the order value is more, then it will be at the last. So if I say the order of the third child element should be, let's say, 10, which is more than 1. So it will be at the end. Oh, sorry. If I do, is it refresh? Oh, okay, sorry. Let me change it to 4. Yeah. So since 2 is more than 1, that's why it's going at the end of the row, right? And if let's say I want the fourth element to be at the first place, so I can by default it is 0. I can define it as -1, which is less than 0, so it will be on the first index. Sorry, not index, at the first place. So this is order. Next we have flex grow. Okay, so let me comment this out. Yeah, so by default the value of flex grow, let me do it here. By default the value of flex grow is 0, so you will see no change. But if I do it 1, it means that flex grow means that it will grow if the parent element's width is more than, like, by default the width was 200, but the width of parent element was more than 800, so there was this empty space. So flex grow will just increase the width of the element to fill up the parent element, right? So if the flex grow of the value of flex grow is same for all the elements, so let's say even if I do it at 10 for all of them, so it will be equal. But let's say the flex grow is 1 for this, but for the second element's flex grow is 2. So you can see that, okay, let me do it 3, then it will be more visible. Yeah. So you can see that this second element is much bigger. It is 3 times this first element, because the flex grow of the first, third, and fourth element is 1, but the flex grow of second element is 3. So that's why its width is 3 times the width of the other elements. So that's flex grow. Uh, and yeah, and next we have flex shrink. So the by default value of flex grow was 0, but the by default value of flex shrink is 1. So let me show you. So you saw that when I was shrinking this, or like when I was reducing the width of the parent element, these elements were shrinking. And this is because the value of flex shrink is by default 1. But if I define it as 0, then you will see that the content is overflowing right here. Yeah, so this is flex shrink, and similar to flex grow, if let's say this is 1 and this one is, yeah, let's say 3, flex shrink will be 3. So it will be shrinking 3 times more than the regular elements. So yeah, that's flex shrink and flex grow. So we did align items, flex shrink, flex grow, and order. So any doubts so far? Okay, so I guess there are no doubts. Next, uh, next is flex spaces. So flex spaces is like, if I define the flex spaces of second element as 200 pixels, and I have flex grow as 1. You can define it as 100. Yeah, so you can let me reduce this further. So you can see that flex grow is like max width. So it will be 50 pixel even though the flex grow is there, but because of flex basis. So flex basis, what it says is that even like there is some element which, like, let's say there is an image which, if even though the screen resolution may be more than uh, which is what is required, and because of that it will grow, but you don't know if it grows more than, let's say, 50 pixel, then the, what should I say, the aspect ratio of the image will go wrong, and if you want to restrict it, then you can use flex basis. So if I further reduce this to 10 pixels, so yeah, this is basically the flex basis. And if but like if I reduce this, then it will come down to 10 pixels. Oh, sorry. Flex, because of flex, oh sorry, yeah, so flex basis basically defines the, like, because of flex grow, it did grow, but let's say flex basis is basically used to define the max width, right? So if I define the width as 150 pixel, yeah, so even though the width is defined as 150 pixel, but because flex width is 10 pixel, that's why it's not uh, increasing in the size. Let's say if I do it 50 pixel, so it's 50 pixel, but if flex shrink will work here if I further it, if I open developer tool, yeah, and if I further reduce this down, so you can see that it's shrinking. Like the current width is 12 pixel, right? So that's basically flex basis. So if you want to override the width, actual width, so you can use flex basis. And yeah, that's, and then there is finally flex property. All of them are flex. It's quite confusing. Flex, then flex is actually shorthand for flex. Uh, Let me comment this out. And it's actually flex grow, then flex shrink, and then flex basis. So it's a shorthand for that. If I say flex 1 1 and 100 pixels, yeah. So, and if I comment this out, so yeah, the flex flex basic flex actually works like that. So we have covered flex basis, flex shrink, flex grow, order, space evenly, space between, space around. Oh, sorry. Justify content, flex flow, flex wrap, flex direction. And yeah, we did all of that. So any doubts so far? Okay, so let's continue then. Let's say, let me delete all of this. Yeah, so if I define its width as 500 pixels and remove all of this, yeah. So yeah, now talking about responsiveness. So let's say I add media and then um, max it as 95, so let's say 750 pixels. Yeah, so let's say 750 pixel, maybe the screen size of a tablet. I want the flex grow. Oh, sorry, flex grow as, let's say, mm, 0. I don't want them to, and let's say 100, and by default the flex grow is 1. So you can see that right now they are increasing in size, but I want them to not to grow in size when they are they the max width reaches 750 pixels. So actually the change is not visible. Let me use yeah, let's say 100 pixel. So yeah, here the flex grow is 1, but now the flex grow has flex grow is off, and if let's say I want at mobile view, let's say 300 pixel, I want the flex direction as column. So it's shrinking and then it's going like this. So right now it might seem like why are we doing this? But let's say there is something like uh, here we have, what do you say, that cards in, like if you have seen inside, like there are cards in here, like and not the playing cards, but like there are div inside of which let's say there is some content, then code is like this, and then as we are uh, reducing the width of the screen size of the screen, then it will further reduce, and at last when we can't uh, fit more than one element in the width and inside of the display screen, then we can trigger this media query, and it will, what should I say, and it will assign the flex direction as column. Oh, so many flex. Okay, so this is basically like we will be doing project when we will be making that uh, what what is that school portal project. Then we will be showing how to actually do that this, how to make websites responsive. But you can definitely try out on your own, and yeah, and do practice a lot by your own, because until you don't practice on your own, you will not be learning. Do make some personal projects and feel free to share them. And I guess we are done with today's topic. So, um, Yeah. So that's it for this session. Do you have any doubt? Mm, if not, then okay. So let me stop.